Bit of audience participation before we start. Only while I figure this out. That's like it. Oh. Right. Question for you all. What is a traditional werewolf? What characteristics do werewolves have? Anybody?
They look and act exactly like ordinary wolves. They're indistinguishable from another wolf. It's not a wolf-human hybrid. It's a person that changes entirely into a wolf.
Right, that's quite a close answer to it. They transform at the full moon. I don't know why I wrote this part twice, but yeah. They appear in the myths and legends through the ethos throughout the years. They walk around on their hind legs, and I've also written quite a bit of information on this one which I'll go through quickly. More or less everybody, since about 1935, has a basic understanding of what a werewolf is. True werewolves, though, are different in legends than they are to film. The werewolf first appeared in 1935 in the American Werewolf in London. And, oh no, I've lost it. And becoming a werewolf is a lot different in mythology than it is in real life. This idea, like I said, was created by Universal Studios. In modern culture, they transform under the full moon. But previously dating back to that, taking it back from the modern culture aspect of it, in France in the 1600s, it was roughly around the same time as the werewolf trials. Not werewolf trials, sorry, the witch trials. You had what was known as werewolf trials, and they went around hunting people who looked like werewolves, but didn't really look like werewolves. There was like more long-haired people, and it was exactly the same with the witches. Innocent people slaughtered for this. So, what's Hollywood all about? The Hollywood connection to it, like I said, 1935, Universal Studios released the Werewolf of London. Well, the American Werewolf of London, and that's quite a good imitation of what it looked like. But what did... there we go. I'll go back. There we go. Right. So what did Hollywood actually do? As has previously been stated in previous talks today, Hollywood derived their information from different sources. And what happened with the werewolf is they got 2 and 2, but instead of getting 4, they got 6. Why? They've taken a cryptid creature and also a scientifically proven mental disorder and used it to create a creature of nightmares. I get your notes. Yeah, so what is the clinical lycanthropy? As we know, the word lycanthropy also means werewolf. Clinical is the scientific terminology for it. Here we have some pictures of skinwalkers. Clinical lycanthropy is a rare mental disorder where the person afflicted with it truly believes they've turned into a werewolf but don't physically change. There was a case in France roughly around 30 years back. It's on YouTube, or it used to be, I don't know if YouTube have actually took this one down, where they show this person in the mental asylum and they're physically changing, or what looks like a physical change, but no fare comes out. And that's all because that's all because it's all to do with the brain. And the person truly believes they're changing. Funny enough, it happens around the full moon. And they go through the pain, they go through the action of the back, like is going on here. And there with. Also, if you type into YouTube, clinical lycanthropy, there is countless videos on there of different cases. About 5 years back in Hull, we had a supposed case, I don't truly believe this one, where somebody on the car claimed to be a werewolf, and he had a very interesting raw steak scenario. Right, so the cryptid creature that I believe that they took it from is known as the dogman. Here's a picture of one. This one is generally known as a type 3. It's humanoid in shape, it's got the wolf ears, there, it's got the long snout, arms coming down, fair body, standing right on his hind legs. Now anyway, the dogman is a cryptid creature which generally is 7 foot tall, very hairy, has amber eyes. Basically the type 3 has amber eyes, can walk around equally on its hind legs as well as all fours. They can jump great distances, they'll think nothing of jumping a ravine in a single bound. There's 2 particular types. You've got the more canine variant, which is a type 3 dogman. You've got the more humanoid one, which is a type 9. There's more reports surfacing every year of different types looking into hyenas, jackals, different forms are becoming more apparent. There's reports that some of them are government made, but we'll get onto that shortly when we get to the behavioural aspects of these creatures. They're very aggressive, they're very hyper-intelligent, they can kill humans, but also, funnily enough, they like to play sadistic games on people who go into their territory. The thing is with dogman, like any wolf, they are very territorial. And if you step onto their territory, if they're not hungry, they'll think nothing about scaring the crap out of you, pardon my French. They will happily chase you off their territory just for the fun of it. Or, what has happened previously in a case where somebody encountered it in a petrol station, it started tapping on the window just to get a scream out of the person. Right, let's move on. So I'm just going to show you a short clip from my YouTube channel.
Hello and welcome to Expedition Dogman. Something I'd like to show you on Google Maps. I found this quite interesting the other day when I found it. It shows most locations of where dogmen are being sighted. I'll show you how to do it so you can do this for yourself. If we go here to Google Maps, let me just clear this out. And if we type in, I've already searched this one, so I'm going to do it again. And click search. This shows in the UK, here, how many encounters we've had, how many have been logged. If we scroll out, and if you look, this is Europe. Further into Eastern Asia. Australia, I'm surprised there's actually been any here, but still, if we scroll over to the other side of the world, look at America. And this you can easily do for yourself. I hope you found this little informative video very interesting. And it just goes to show we can't all be wrong, can we? Until next time, goodbye.
Now, just to talk about the dogman sightings briefly, Google has a tendency of turning this feature off and on. Because, as we know, Google is American. The American government know all about these cryptids, not just dogmen, but Bigfoot, Sasquatch, they know all about them. And they don't want the truth coming out. Because at the moment, the CIA know about this, the main central government know about it, and quite a few of the government organisations. And what they're doing is they're breeding these creatures and sending them into war zones. And the ones that don't comply are getting sent out into all the different national parks in America. So, when you try to capture photos of one, there was a report on dogman encounters not so long back that I heard of, where there was a couple of guys out. They found these dogmen, they started snapping photos of them, got clear photos, started to walk back away from the ravine. With that, the photos just vanished off the phone. Now, as we know, the governments all over the world can get into your phone at a moment's notice and wipe things, and that's exactly what happened in there. I tried this morning, and at the moment Google has got this feature switched off, which is really annoying. But also, if you look at the origins of the dogman, if you look at the origins of Bigfoot as well, they originate from the beginning of time. I honestly believe they were here before us. Because if you look at Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, there's a missing link. And if you look at the human to the Bigfoot, the dogman and the Bigfoot were here first, and were the aliens, so to speak. The Anunnaki, when they came to this planet, they wanted a slave race. And if you look into the Hebrew Bible, you've got the word Elohim. Now, Him is the plural, as it is in different languages. So, in the current Bible as it states at the moment, it says, God created man in his image. Now, the original translation from the Hebrew Bible clearly states, and the gods made man in our image. That means there's more than one, which gives more theory to the alien. And also dogmen and Bigfoot are known as, especially the paranormal side of it, they're known as the alien cryptids. Oh, I'll go outside in a minute. So the Anunnaki, what they did was, they spliced off DNA from the locals, DNA from themselves, mixed it together, there's your missing link to evolution. Now, moving more into the sightings, in the UK, the most famous one of recent times is the Beast of Branston Drain, up in East Yorkshire. As you look here, yes, this was taken from the Hull Daily Mail, but you've got the amber-eyed creature again. Here we go. Right, I'll read the blurb at the top. In Hull, East Yorkshire, United Kingdom, in September of 2016, numerous reports of a wolf-like creature surfaced in the Hull Daily Mail surrounding Barnston Drain. Now, Barnston Drain runs from Barnston, goes down through Beverley, and down through to more or less Pranto, which is East Hull. Now, the locals named the creature Old Stinker. One couple reported seeing the creature near the drain, just outside Beverley, and it was eating a German Shepherd. Now, what's interesting about this is, in the Hull Daily Mail article itself, they mention a wolf-like creature. When it spotted the couple, it picked up the dog in its mouth, and it rose onto its hind legs, ran, and vaulted over the drain. Now, bearing in mind that the drain is 7 foot wide. Another eyewitness reported seeing something similar, and when it spotted her, it again vaulted over the drain, then disappeared into an industrial estate. Unfortunately, I couldn't get any more eyewitness reports, even though there has been several more sightings. So, what is the Beast of Barnston Drain? First theory, hoax. Possibly, but saying that, how would a human be able to, or sick enough even, to carry German Shepherds in its mouth, vault over a drain, then scale a 7 foot fence? It's very highly for the simple fact, if you think of the weight of a German Shepherd, our jawline, the way we stand, there is no way we can physically do it. As well, if you look at the ghillie suit, which researchers when they go out into the field will use, you can easily put fur on that, but why would you want to do that? It's very highly unlikely that it was a fake. Is it a spectre? Now, Barnston Drain, I'll give you a little bit of brief history on it. It's obviously haunted. It's got a ley line running straight underneath it. Now, a ley line is an energy conduit which generally runs under bodies of water, and you get a lot more paranormal and spiritual activity in these types of areas. Now, in the United Kingdom, we have not had any wolves since the 1500s. Could it be possibly a spectre of a time long since gone, but how can you explain it eating a physical dog? Or, the other theory, Was it actually eating the dog, or was it a residual haunting of something that happened previously, which would then explain the single spike that we've had? But was it a big cat? Highly doubtful, for the simple fact, big cats cannot walk around on the hind legs. Because they're not canine. But this creature was clearly walking / running on its hind legs, just like a werewolf, or a supposed werewolf. So this is my theory as to exactly what the beast of Barnes syndrome is. I've talked to quite a few cryptozoologists who studied the dogman. I've spoke to Paul Sinclair and a few others, and we're all more or less on the same theory as to what it is. I can't read that, we wrote that too small. Now leading to my final theory, and for me it's the one that holds up the most, due to the evidence that has been brought forward, and reading different descriptions on the dogman, I think it's personally a dogman, for the simple fact, the amber eyes to begin with, and also the fact that it got up onto its hind legs and ran away. I don't honestly believe it's a bear, because we don't have any bears over here, and you don't only get bears escaping the zoos that often, and they're very rarely transported in or out, so I highly doubt that's the case, but we can't rule it out for certain. And the more I look into it, and the more you think about it, the fact it's running around on its hind legs, it's vaulting drains. Now German Shepherds are the closest things we've got to what wolves do. They can clearly vault a 7-foot drain. So for a creature that's about 8 foot tall, well 7 to 8 foot tall, they're going to easily do this. And also, the area around Bamston Drain is covered in tree lines. In certain parts of it, especially up at the Beverley end, because you come up Beverley Beck, you've got a turn off, and you've got a nice wooded area. Me and a friend of mine, we went looking for the creature last year, and what we heard while we was out there was quite weird. We found a weird looking footprint to start with, so we examined it. We continued on, and we found what looks like a nest, as the trees had been ripped out of the socket, snapped, and strategically placed to form like a crisscross pattern. Exactly what Bigfoot did was all, funnily enough. They're known for creating nests and creating like traps for things. But for some reason, through talking to many different researchers while I was getting this all sorted and looking into it even further, dogmen absolutely love being in the trees. And there's a reason for that. They're an apex predator. So if you're a predator, how are you going to catch your prey? You're going to want to get the high ground. You're going to want to get the lay of the land. Best place for that is up in a tree. And don't think Bigfoot spend that much time in trees, but dogmen certainly do. And dogmen do have the ability to blend the light around the fair. Now, the best example of this is Predator. Have we all seen the film Predator? It's got a certain camouflage ability where it's still there, but it bends the light around it to make it look invisible. Dogmen do exactly the same thing, it's something built into their DNA. Now, when we got back from Barnes Drain, I sent the full footage across to a friend of mine in America, who's also a researcher, and I asked him to check it, because we heard a growl. It was deep, it was low. We thought it was coming from the drain. As it turned out, it wasn't. It was actually coming from the tree line. There was, best way to explain it, you've got fields one side, you've got where the supposed deck was there, the pathway where we were stood, drain to our right, and field at the other side of horses. As soon as we heard the growl, we started hearing thudding noises. Now, horses don't spook very easily, not to the point of stampeding. There was a herd of horses in the next field along. All we was hearing was thud, thud, thud. So we started to panic. So we thought, right, best thing to do is to head to open. Exactly, if we have to leg it, we can skate around and get back to the main road. As we was coming out of the train line, all you saw was these horses hurtling towards the bridge. There was like a little bridge, and they was trying to block the route. Very strange behaviour for horses. So anyway, I sent the footage away to a guy called Lieutenant from Kentucky, I believe it was, and I asked him to check it, and he put it through different filters. And here is what he found. Something lurking in the trees. So from what me and him discussed, because he asked for the full backstory of what happened, he reckons that the beast of Banshee Drain was actually watching us from high above, following a typical apex predator behavioural pattern. So, more different dogman sightings and cases. Now, this is the UK, here, got the sightings in Scotland, here, where it's got the H button is more or less where Banshee Drain is, up to about there is Whitby, down and round, you've got the Yorkshire Wolds. Let's bring up the sightings a minute. There we go. Number 5, we'll start from bottom, we'll go to top. The Flixton werewolf, as it's been commonly known. What I think's happened is there is a pack of them running around. Because it just seems weird that you've got Banshee Drain down here, you've got Whitby up there, you've got the Yorkshire Wolds surrounding it and part of the North Yorkshire Moors as well. There is no way that one creature could cover that distance and create as many sightings as this one has. And as we all know, wolves, they live in packs. So it begs to differ. Dogmen do the same thing, and when you see one, it's the same with Bigfoot, they live in packs, or clans, whatever you want to call it. It's not the one that you see that you need to be worrying about. It's those that are in the back. It's those that you can't see that you need to worry about. Now, Dogman potentially spotted near Humberside Airport. Round here you've got Lincolnshire, it's about half an hour drive from Hull to Humberside Airport. Now, a paranormal team, this is going back to just after the first lockdown, so a couple of years back now, they was driving home about 12:30 at night. Pitch black, coming past Humberside Airport, heading for Grimsby, which is a little bit around there-ish. And all they saw was this big black figure. They said it was about 8 foot tall, but as we know in the dark, sizes can be very misjudged. And all they saw was this black figure run across the road through the bushes. You had bushes at the airport where it came through, it crossed the road, through another set of bushes, and at that side of the road, you had a farm and a lake reservoir a bit further down. So they got out of the car, they put the searchlight on, and it looked as though it had been flattened, but unfortunately they couldn't see anything that much that night. So they came back the next day to the exact same spot where they saw this thing run across the road. And it looked like it had completely flattened bushes. Now normally, if you're running through a bush, it'll fling straight back up. On both sides of the road, this was completely flattened. So whatever it was massive. And personally, if you think about it, 3 things a creature needs to survive: shelter, water, food. You've got a farm, so you've got all your farm animals and whatnot. There's food. You've got a lake reservoir, there's the water source. Then you've got the barn. Easy shelter overnight. But if it was a dogman, and if dogman are 100% in this country, how did they get here? Because if you look around the UK, completely surrounded with water, we haven't got any bridges that connect us to mainland Europe. Over that way, more water. Then you've got the North Sea over here. So there's 3 different theories as to how these creatures are travelling around. One, you've got the Ice Age. Now, in the Ice Age, most of the North Sea was ice. Is it a case they've drifted down, landed in Scotland, worked their way into the country to create patterns? It's a possibility, but it don't look too much 100% true unless they are a real flesh and blood creature that's breeding, creating pups, but then we'd have a lot more spikes in activity. The second theory is known as the inner earth theory. Now, the inner earth theory states that there is caves in every main country on the planet that go down towards the centre of the earth and then spread out. Now, these creatures, as we know, they are very fairy. So, if they're going down to the centre of the earth, as we know, you've got molten lava, etc. down there. And the further you go down, the warmer it's going to get. How can they survive for such long periods of time to cross the countries? That, to me, unless they've got a different core temperature to what the human and other animals on this planet have, doesn't hold up too much weight. Now, the final theory is they're interdimensional creatures, and that they can appear as wisps and go and come as they please. Now, according to Native American history, you've got Sasquatch. They also know about the dogmen. These things feature heavily in their folklore. And this moves us up to the Beast of Prey Road. Now, the reporter, well, the news reporter who first discovered this creature, started looking into it. And the more she looked into it, she pulled a map of the area around Bray Road. And every sighting was happening near Native American cemeteries. So, is it a case they're using the ley lines of the planet as interdimensional parcels to travel around? To me, that's more likely, because even over here in the UK, these creatures are appearing, maybe not always near cemeteries, but wherever there is a lot of paranormal activity. Like I mentioned with the Beast of Prey Road, not Beast of Prey Road, the Beast of Barnston Drain, it's a known paranormal activity hotspot. There's also a ley line running quite close by. So, is it a case they're using these as portal jobs? The Michigan Dogman is a well-known story in America, which dates back to the 1800s, and there is sightings still to this day. But I think the most well-known one of all, which is why I put it at number one, is the Beast of the LBL, also known as Land Between the Lakes. Now, the land between the lakes is in Kent, and the story goes, the original story that came out was 1975, and a couple of police officers, after a night shift, were in the local petrol station, and they weren't talking. They were absolutely petrified. Eventually, the attendant came over to them and started to ask them about it, and slowly but surely, he opened up. And as it turned out, there was a family of four from the Amish community that had decided to park up in the trailer park. And this was autumn, so it was more or less end of season. And there was the father, there was the son, daughter, and mother. And the father and the son were outside chopping logs to get a fight. And according to the story, the creature beheaded the kid, brutally slaughtered the dad, then moved on to the trailer, ripped the trailer off the door, got inside the trailer, mutilated the mum, but took the daughter elsewhere. So the daughter ended up in a tree, body parts everywhere. To me, this is one of the more gruesome tales of the Dogman. And all the police found was blood dripping, body parts everywhere, and the daughter hung in the tree. Now, what drew this creature in? This moves us on to their traits and behaviours. Now, to quickly quickly finish off the land between the lakes. These creatures are attracted to the smell of tobacco, musky aftershaves, deodorants, etc. With the etc, you could easily put perfumes into that. Now, the woman was wearing perfume and it was musky. Now, what do animals do? They get drawn to musky smells. They get drawn to pheromones. And that's the leading theory as to why the attack at the land between the lakes happened. And over the years, this beast has been constantly spotted, and I honestly do believe that this is a breeding ground for them. So anyway, moving on to their traits and behaviours. 1. These creatures are often spotted not only in the countryside, but also urban areas, and will eat pets and wild animals alike. Think about it. We've just mentioned about the beast of Banson Drain eating a German Shepherd, technically a domestic animal. Countryside and urban areas, if you think back to times gone by, especially in England, and in some cases over in America, the majority of it was forest. We've deforested the majority of the countries. So as we're building cities, we're encroaching into their territory. Hence the reason, more and more, these creatures are getting spotted more in the city than in the woods. Most sightings are near running water sources, which suggest these things are actual living beings. Furthermore, where did I write it? They can breed and live in clans. There is many reports at the moment coming forward of juvenile dogmen, which leads to the theories of these creatures have migration patterns just like Bigfoot does, but they also have nesting grounds. And the more you look at the land between the lakes and places like that, the more you see a breeding colony of these creatures. So also, most sightings are near water. They need water to survive. They also give off negative feelings and a sense of dread. Now, sometimes the nameless dread can actually be associated with them. Now, the nameless dread is a sense of impending doom, which I don't see why they call it nameless when you put a name to something you can't put your finger on. It's a bit of a contradictive one, but still. They bring with them the sense of impending doom and negative feelings. So, also, if you can see one, it's not that one you need to worry about. It's potentially the others that are not around, that are not revealing themselves, that you really need to be concerned about. There's been numerous reports of people going, especially in America, of people seeing one on a hillside, and then looking behind them, seeing another hillside, and seeing little silhouettes hiding with the pointy ears. I've just shown you was sent to me from another researcher called David from Texas. And this again shows them, especially in this one here, of them hiding in the tree lines. This is due to the fact of the apex predator. Got the eyes, see the ears, hand coming down. But the question is, it's very difficult to research these creatures. But why is that? Little is known about the dogman because most people who have seen them are in denial and never want to talk about them again, whilst others are too scared to come forward due to the fact they are scared that they won't be believed or ridiculed. We'll go through that first paragraph first of all. Because most people who have seen them never want to talk about them again. If you ran into a cryptid that was stood up, looks like a wolf, your brain would do one or two things. It'd go into fight or flight, and fear kicks in. And that's all because of what Hollywood have done over the years to begin with. Whilst others are too scared to come forward due to the fact they are scared that they won't be believed or ridiculed. Now, most communities in America are very tight-knit. Everybody knows literally everyone. Even in the hamlets and villages of the UK where these creatures have been spotted, you've got exactly the same thing. So if you started mentioning, oh, I saw a 7-foot werewolf hiding in the tree line the other day, you'd be classed as a village idiot 9 times out of 10. So that's why most people keep quiet on them. Also, if you look at it from the dogman's point of view as well, why would it reveal itself to the masses? Because in our day and age, hunters would hunt it for sport and force it to become extinct. And also in some countries, like America, they're very trigger happy. What's the first thing an American does to you if you break onto his land? Oh, identify yourself or I'm going to shoot you. So what's he expecting? The dogman to turn around and go, oh hi, I'm Mr. Dogman. These creatures can't talk English, so they have no true way of talking to us. So what's the first thing the American's going to do? Rather than try to understand what it is, they're going to put 5 or 6 bullets into it. Which then, as with any creature, it's going to go into fight mode, especially as we know this one's a particularly nasty creature. If you go shooting it, I hope you can run fast, is all I'm going to say on that. And this is why true research can't happen until people start realising not to go shooting these things, because it's really going to get on the nose of the dogman. That's why I believe these things prefer to stay in the mythology, and why nowadays they're avoiding human contact. But the problem is, these creatures are very much real and they are out there. So let's revisit the Hollywood connection now that we've looked at clinical lycanthropy and the dogman. Here is what Hollywood have created. Creature of terror, yeah? You've got exactly a type 3 dogman. He is. Granted, yes, this is very over-exaggerated, but it's something that's highlights exactly what a dogman would do. Earlier on I mentioned to you that Hollywood have put 2 and 2 together and come up with 6. Well, yes, that's exactly what they've done. They've taken a real cryptid and a real scientific mental disorder in order to create a true creature of terror. And the problem is as well, what's in our houses most of the times nowadays? The internet, TV, phones where we can watch videos, where we can stream the latest movies, all the different werewolf movies, so our brain automatically thinks that's what a werewolf really looks like. That it's a creature of mythology and of make-believe. Make no mistake, these creatures are out there, and who knows, if you do encounter one, don't go looking for it alone. It's not just the fact that it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous to go out in the woods by yourself anyway, just in case anything did happen. So going back to what I was saying about how they've created a creature of terror, they've taken a dogman, they've taken clinical lycanthropy, mixed it together, and they've programmed it into our heads since 1935, when the first werewolf film actually came out, and this is what has been imprinted. And the problem is, as we all know, Hollywood do this with all paranormal stuff. Paranormal activity is another good one to mention. They've taken what can happen, but exaggerated it tenfold. And this is why the human brain has registered it. Also, if you look at Paranormal Witness and also Dogman Encounters Radio Episode 1, especially Dogman Encounters Radio Episode 1, where they actually see a dogman, the first thing they turn around and say is, we daren't say it, but we know what it is, a werewolf. And that's simply for the fact of what Hollywood have gone and done, and that's why werewolves truly are not what you think they are. Any questions?